So, Superman and Lois continues on a strong run with 3 episodes in. It's still very good, even though this was even more centered on the boys than not. It was more a teenage soap opera, which, yes, I don't care for, but they weave it in pretty well. Like I mentioned before, it's similar to how they kind of handled it with Stargirl, in which they involved it within the organic flow of their superhero stories. And here, it was, the main core here is how to deal with Jordan's emerging powers and how far do they go and avoid anything terrible while still dealing with his troubles. He's a troubled lad there. And there's some good stuff here, and pretty well captures boys, and yet the brothers, they pick on each other, but at the same time, he's always there for him and actually takes up for him in a lot of ways, even with Clark. And then there's also the appreciation of fatherhood here, his responsibilities, and how he has to navigate this with 2 teenage boys. Which is no easy task. And his position is perfectly understandable. They find out that he listened in on their conversations, and he shows up at the school to make sure, because he was worried something terrible was about to happen. Jordan was being picked on, and he was about to hit this guy. And if he had, well, he might have found the kid's head on the other side of the street there, So that's the big concern, of course. The kids overreact, especially Jordan. And the constant scene, you don't understand me, Dad, stuff like that. That's pretty formulaic. But his position's understandable, but at the same time, they were bothered by it, and they're 14, and they're not at the age where they're going to take him hovering over them. Because it feels like they're being smothered. And even though intellectually it's like, look, this kid could explode any minute. But he wasn't really spying on them per se. It's just they had already demonstrated how his super hearing works. They have a really great superhero action scene at the opening. It's done very well. There's a few moments here you say, it's video game CGI, and all. But it doesn't matter. It works well, and it's easily better than the standard for CW. And that's, I think, the influence of HBO Max coming in, because eventually these shows will be archived, if you will, over at HBO Max. And so the quality, it's got to step up its game. So there's this rescue scene where a bridge is collapsing, and it's all handled very well. He swoops in, and he saves everybody and all that, and with a smile and all very Superman-like, and all that stuff. But at the time, he heard that there was trouble when he was at home, and they were painting a room, and they were getting into silly shenanigans and stuff. And then all of a sudden, he stops, has a blank stare on his face, and then he zooms out. Well, of course, he was hearing people were in trouble, and he goes in. And so they ask him about all this, and he's learned over time, specifically under the tutelage of the Jor-El AI, at his time at the fortress, to how to filter the sounds and apply his powers, stuff like that. And so it plays into this, but they all quickly forget that when they want to vent on Dad. But he's the adult, and he has to be reserved and work through that. And ultimately, if football becomes the savior here, oddly enough, a very masculine sport. Oh my goodness, how can they allow this on a CW show? And again, I suppose they might have wanted the Nerdrotic's Friday Night Tights title. Because, it's football and superheroes. But after being picked on by the bullies at school who are all on the team, Jordan decides to try out for the team. And turns out, even though he had no real interest in football, he's actually pretty good at it, and he's knocking them all down, which is indicative that he is stronger than they are. And of course he has, if not full-blown superpowers, he's got some pretty serious superpowers here, despite what the AI told him in the fortress. So otherwise, there's no real story here. And maybe even Jonathan too at some point. I don't know. But right now, he's I guess he takes his powers from mommy. And so Jordan turns out well, and he actually has a almost, like he's the apple didn't fall far from the tree moment, where the big bully, which was the boyfriend of Sarah, the girl he likes, he kissed. And even though they break up in this episode, so there's hope for Jordan and Sarah, yay! But anyway, he knocks the guy down. But then he offers his hand and he apologizes to him. I should not have kissed your girlfriend. I'm sorry. Even though he didn't know at the time, but still. You get the idea, and the guy says, yeah, all right. But that physical interaction, it's, this is true. How many times you have to hear about guys who, when they first meet, they fight, and then they're buddies afterward. So I don't know if these are going to be buddies or anything like that, but there's a certain respect in that's played out here, which is odd that, again, to see this in a CW show, or just the whole concept at this point, where how many people would scream that it's toxic and all this sort of stuff, and yet more times than not always. I've had similar experiences in my childhood. Even though I beat the guy, there was no respect. He kept hassling me, and he left me alone. But anyway, and then there's the good scene between Clark and Jonathan, where he says, "Hey, look, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm thinking football might be a good thing for him. He's coming out of his shell. He's gaining some respect from the other kids, and he's making friends." And he's getting more confident to approach the girl, and all this sort of stuff. It's all very good for him, bringing him out the kind of doom and gloom emo boy he's been, And so Clark's like, yeah, all right, and so the compromise is Clark will now be the assistant coach. Now, I would have thought they do it where he gets the job by offering to do it for free because he just wants to monitor the kids, and most, obviously Jordan. But right now he doesn't have a job. I mean, he's on the farm. I don't know that he's doing crops or anything. I don't see any livestock there. So it's like maybe the idea that he's assistant coach is the job, and that's what he does. He's going to have to help out with the whole team, not just his own kids. So I think that would have been a better idea, but what have you. But anyway, there he'll be, and I'm sure there'll be more football scenarios going forward before this. But if they handled it this way and they weave it in and out, there's a lot of soap opera stuff going on. There's soap opera stuff between Sarah and her mother, Lana, and all that sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, okay. But I kind of think they're setting it up a story for her father here, who he's a big Morgan Edge supporter, so he's the MAGA guy. Of course, Morgan Edge. Morgan Edge was always more or less a villain or a shady character in the comic books, and this will be no different here. But it is that narrative, even though they gave him a pretty good argument. Lois was pushing the living wage, which there's no metric for it or what have you, and he's pointing it out. And it's like, even a subpar wage is better than no wage, which is what all she was offering. If he ran off the big investor in the town, then that's it. There's nothing going on, So, but I'm thinking he's going to get swept up in this mystery that's going on, because then a woman shows up. This is one of these things about Lois, where one of the complaints from the former writer there, who's claiming it's a racist and toxic environment in there, and her ideas were thrown out because because it's a racist, toxic environment, and also a sexist environment, because she claimed the Lois Lane storylines, she doesn't do anything. It's all Superman stuff. This is not true. She has a storyline. She's doing what Lois Lane always does. She's investigating a story. It will lead to danger and trouble. That's typical Superman plot, and that's just the part of it. And that's what else are you supposed to do? But to say she got nothing, that's BS. So she's looking into this story. There's this woman is very depressed, turning to alcoholism, comes to them for help. Her son has gone missing, and he was going in for some sort of deal with Morgan Edge's people or department or whatever, and she hasn't heard or seen from him since. Lois looks into it. This woman ends up nearly being killed by this man who's obviously, apparently, working for Morgan Edge in some form or fashion. And you think he's just a hired thug, but he attacks Lois, and so she calls in Superman, and he's there within a split second. She's got her little signal device, and that scene's really cool. It's a slow-mo thing, but it's very cool as he smashes in through the wall. One of the rules with Superman: don't ever mess with Lois. But then you discover this guy is super powered because Superman goes at him, beating him and stuff, and he can take it. And then he takes down Superman. He knocks him out at one point. So it's like, well, what's this about, But Superman, ultimately, he's got other tricks up his sleeve. He uses his freeze breath on him, and that's another cool scene of effects and whatnot. Then just goes to town on him because now he realizes he can, and eventually, just knocks him right out of the building. And then saves the woman. The woman, now, the scene here was that I guess he was there to shut her up and kill her. But I guess his attempt was to make it look like she had committed suicide because she was in the bathroom. She had some sort of, well, not a rope, but a wire or something around her neck and this sort of thing. And I guess he was in the middle of doing that when Lois showed up. Otherwise, with his superpowers, he could have easily killed her, but I'm assuming he wanted to make it look like a suicide. Well, he failed in his mission, so then he's sitting out in his car on the road at the end of the episode, and this woman shows up, and she kills him with heat vision. So I'm guessing Kryptonian criminals from Phantom Zone or something along those lines. And so that's something this is getting more intriguing and deeper into what Morgan Edge is involved with. And whether this guy had Kryptonian powers or he was just someone they experimented on, and that's where this woman's son has disappeared to be, a guinea pig in this, to be experimented on, is possibly what's going to be the outcome of this. But, and I'm thinking perhaps Sarah's father, Lana's husband, is going to end up being one of these people and not realizing it until it's too late. Something along those lines. Because he's, such a fan of Morgan Edge, he won't understand what a threat he is and that sort of thing. So that's how that works. But anyway, so you've got mystery and superhero action along with the teen soap opera, which dominated in this episode, but not enough to tell me, I can't take this anymore. No, it was still very good, and they weaved it through really well. So we're 3 in. It's still, I keep waiting for something. Come on, there's a trick here. But so far, so good. And it's there's a lesson to be learned here from all these other failing franchises. If you took that approach, imagine where you would be. And it's not even, this is nothing, it's not a masterpiece or spectacular, but it's just a good Superman story. So if you're working on Doctor Who, there's good elements and templates, plenty for decades for you to look to on how to do a good Doctor Who story. Same thing with Star Trek. Same thing with Star Wars. They just will not do it. But somehow, some way, God help me, it happened on CW. I don't know what's going on here, but somebody did it. At least for 3 episodes so far with Superman, and so I recommend the show. It's not going to knock your socks off, except in this era it will, but it's a good, fun, enjoyable show. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.